Hello and welcome to Big Muddy Mayhem. This is the podcast where we talk about true crime and bad behavior in the Midwest.
Each week we'll bring you 2 stories from the heartland that might break your heart, but we hope to entertain you along the way.
I'm Tracey Laricha.
And I'm Janet O'Brien.
Hello. Hello. Are we ready to get muddy? My goodness, has this been a week?
Yes, it's been such a week.
Woof.
Oh, yeah. We're a little bit late on recording, but you're still going to hear this on Wednesday, so
absolutely
you would have no idea.
Janet is a rock star and is going to get this put out like when we normally do, although we are recording days later than we normally would be.
Absolutely.
Janet has a new car and I have 2 new kittens.
Yep.
So, it's been a
week.
bit.
Just a little bit of a week.
It's a circus.
Yes.
All
but
right.
hopefully it'll calm down and we have some fun stories to share.
We are committed to our muddy buddies. We would not leave you without a crime, and so we are ready with 2 stories to share with you.
And I think you are starting first.
I am starting first.
Okay.
All right. So, I am going to begin with the story of Leslie Irvin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have to tell you that this came to me as a listener suggestion, and that came from Ryder's dad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We went to go and visit with him last weekend.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking to him about the podcast, and I said, yeah, I need a story suggestion. He's like, well, you ever hear of Leslie Mad Dog Irvin? And I said, no, I have not. And I went home and I looked it up and I was like, holy cats, this is the best story.
Awesome.
So Leslie Irvin, I'm going to jump right in.
Okay, go right ahead.
Born in Evansville, Indiana, the household was owned by Alice and Ed. Which makes us laugh because we have a pair of friends.
Yeah, brother and sister.
That are brother and sister.
And they owned a house together at one point.
I know. But different story, different Alice, different Ed. Anyway, they have 8 kids.
Oh, wow.
Leslie is the 6th of 8. He is very smart, but he acts up a lot in class.
Uh-huh.
He also likes to start fires.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay.
So after the 5th one, he gets kicked out of school pretty much in like the freshman year of high school.
Oh my God. So he's starting fires in school?
Oh yeah, no, all arson at the school.
Oh my God.
And after 5 times, they're like, maybe you shouldn't be here. So we don't know much about his early life other than then, like I said, he's born in 24. By 1943, he joins the Army. It's most likely that he joins the Army to avoid prison.
Oh, yeah.
He is a paratrooper. And during his time in prison, he will be arrested and put in, I asked what military prison was called. Mm-hmm. Ryder, who has military service, says that, like, in the Navy, it's called the brig.
Right. That's what I've heard.
What is it in the Army? Do you know?
I have no idea.
The best I could find is stockade.
Okay.
So anyway, he is put into military confinement.
Okay.
Whatever that is called. 6 times?
Oh my God!
He escapes.
What?
6 times?
Oh my God!
6?
6, wow.
He eventually goes AWOL.
Huh.
Yeah!
Well, you know.
Who'd have thunk it? He's caught, retired, or retrieved, and then, like, convicted, and then escapes. Wash, rinse, repeat. Like, this happens.
God.
And after number 6, eventually the military turns him over to civilian police for robberies that he has committed while he was on the lam.
Oh my God.
Like, the military doesn't want to deal with him.
No.
The civilian police don't want to deal with him.
Oh my God.
They have to kind of push back and forth on who is going to deal with them. He is eventually convicted, I believe, in civilian court.
Okay.
So he goes to Indiana prison, and he serves 9 years.
Wow.
at Indiana State Prison, where he is known for making moonshine.
Okay.
And he is described by the prison psychiatrist as intellectual but antisocial.
Okay.
1954, after he has served his 9 years, he is paroled. He goes to work and moves back in with his parents, and he's working in a bakery. And here's where things take a turn towards the worst.
Okay.
Towards murder. Further details are going to be available in the source notes. This story is just very, very dense, so we can only really hit along the highlights.
Sure.
We have a lot to tell.
Okay.
December 12th, 1954.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Holland is a cashier working at a liquor store around the holidays. It's owned by her and her husband.
Okay.
He also works for the railroad. So she runs the shop during the day, and then he comes in and closes up. It's the holiday season. I mean, raise your hand if you don't need something to drink to be able to be around your relatives during the holidays. Oh, hi, none of you. She's working the register. He's going to go and close up the store when he gets off of work. He shows up, the register is open, and there's a half-empty bottle of whiskey, and Mary's purse is dumped out all over the counter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, Mary is not on a bender. Mary is tied up and slumped over in between the toilet and the wall in the bathroom.
Oh, my God.
She has been bound behind her back and then shot in the head.
Oh, my gosh.
She is also 3 months pregnant.
Wow. That's crazy.
This is awful.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just, it's so senseless.
Right.
What they end up getting away with is like $600, I think, because it's right before Christmas and everybody needs
stuff. Right.
Anyway, so like maybe about $1,200 today's money, but
wow.
Nobody saw it coming. There's no reason for this.
No, not at all.
It's just a senseless one-time thing.
Right.
Except it isn't.
Oh.
So that was the 2nd. The 23rd. A few weeks later. Wesley Kerr. He's working as an attendant at a 24-hour gas station.
Okay.
He's got a wife and 3 young children at home. He's so happy to have this job. He was supposed to get back into the service, but while he's waiting for his papers to come through and all of that, and he is already, I think, a 2-time veteran.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But meanwhile, he's like, I got 3 kids at home.
Right.
Christmas is coming.
Yes.
I need this job.
Yeah.
So he's an overnight attendant at a gas station, which, that's not the worst.
No, not at all.
He's happy for the work. Customer that he had helped out when they were kind of in the middle of the night and didn't have anything, pulls up and comes over and waves at him and goes and says hello, but is just there to buy a soda from the outside soda machine.
Oh.
Do you remember those with the glass bottles?
Yeah, I do.
Have you ever had a soda as good as those cold glass bottles?
They're
right?
amazing, yes.
Oh my gosh. So he gets one of those and he's like, hey, good to see you. And he leaves. That's about 1:30.
Okay.
Now, about 1:45, somebody else that knows Wesley and is just like, oh, well, as long as I'm on my way home,
right.
might as well just stop and say hey.
Sure.
I had a friend that you know the big Amico station?
Yes, I do. Right over at the edge of Clayton, in Richmond Heights.
I won't call them out because I don't know if they want to be named on the pod, but I had a friend that was like an overnight attendant there. And when I was in college, I'm like, oh, I'd go there all the time. Just like, fuck it, I'll get a cup of coffee and just hang out.
Yep.
I've actually known at least 2 people that worked overnight gas station where it's like, oh, we'll just go say hey.
Right.
Anyway, this guy goes by and he comes in and he's like, Wesley's not here. Oh, the register is open.
Uh-oh.
He goes immediately to a neighboring gas station and calls the police.
Oh, wow.
Smart.
Smart. Very smart.
They come by. They find Wesley on the floor. He has been tied up and shot in the head.
Oh, my God.
This is now starting to get reported in the papers and this is the best, most dramatic thing. The mystery of the kneeling corpses.
Oh my God!
Is what they call it.
The media comes up with some strange...
Some stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the mystery of the kneeling corpses. We're now there. Evansville, Indiana offers back in, this is like 1950s.
Yeah.
$1,000 back then.
Wow.
Reward for any information that would lead to capture. We get to March. Like, everything's quiet for a little bit.
Okay.
We get to March of 1955, March 21st. John and Wilhelmina Saylor, they are a simple farming couple. They have a tobacco farm in Mount Vernon, Indiana. He's been working in the fields, as you do. He comes home for lunch.
Sure.
As you do.
Right.
Wilhelmina has got lunch ready, some fried chicken and, whatnot, and, puts it on the table. He eats lunch and then he goes back out into the fields.
Sure.
And she's cleaning up the dishes. And that is the last that anybody sees her alive.
Oh my God.
A few hours later, John Jr., their son, comes home from school. He's got about 45 minutes to an hour every day on the bus to go to school.
Gotcha.
He comes home. His mother is shot in the head, face down, tied up.
Wow.
Right as he's about ready to go and call for help, his father gets home from work. So they both, almost right on top of one another, discover her.
Wow.
The town is in a panic. The local police form, and they form a junior sheriff patrol
Okay.
where they give middle schoolers and high schoolers badges and patches, asking kids to just look out for anything that's
suspicious, yeah.
It's see something, say something.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And, if you see anything, tell your parents, because clearly the way to solve this is teenagers. So this is what they're doing
Sure.
to combat this problem. All right, so we were looking at the Saylor family. That was the 21st of March.
Right.
The 28th of March. Raymond and Gable Duncan. Now, Raymond is the son.
Okay.
Gable is the father. And this is a little bit confusing because there are a whole lot of people here.
Gotcha.
Raymond is the son. Gable is the father. They're going to go and meet Mamie, and Elizabeth Duncan.
Okay.
Mamie is Gable's wife. Maple is her sister. And Elizabeth is Maple's daughter.
Okay. Got
So
it.
you've got the wife,
Right.
the sister-in-law, and then her kid.
Right.
And the reason that Raymond's wife isn't there is that Raymond's wife has just had a baby boy the night before. She's still in the hospital.
Okay. Got it.
So everybody is meeting up over at Raymond's house because they're all going to go together to meet the brand new baby.
Absolutely.
As you do,
Right.
right? Anyway, a passing car drives by and sees 2 bodies shot and tied up in the woods on the side of the road. They call the police and let them know. That's Gable and Raymond,
Oh my God.
who will never get to meet their son or grandson.
Wow.
Back at the house, they show up. Mamie, who is the wife, right? Grandma.
Grandma, right.
Grandma is shot, but she's still alive. Maple, who's sister-in-law, like great aunt, I guess.
Right.
She's shot dead.
Oh my God.
And 2-year-old Elizabeth is unharmed and sitting next to her dead mother. They're
awful.
all tied up.
Oh my God.
When they question the killer later, and they ask about, he doesn't answer any questions. He's completely fucking stone-faced through the whole thing. But when they ask about Elizabeth and why she was spared, he just shrugged and said, I like kids.
Oh my God.
So 2-year-old Elizabeth is spared. Mamie is shot. She will be permanently blinded, but she will live. And Elizabeth is killed.
Wow.
Now the entire area is on edge.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we start to get our first lead.
Okay.
A neighbor saw a car near the Duncan farm on the day of the murder, and he has some details. Look, it was a dark colored sedan, Indiana plates, and there's damage to the front left side.
Okay.
So we have something
here. Something, finally,
We've got something to catch on to.
Right.
Things start to fall in place here. Another neighbor says she had been driving and her grandson was actually driving, but they were going to visit family, and they got into a little fender bender because 17-year-old driver.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? In Henderson, like kind of in between the Kentucky-Indiana border, and they damaged the other car. They stopped. They got out. Like, should we exchange information?
Sure.
Driver of the sedan doesn't want to bother to call police.
I wonder why.
Anything like that. So she gives him $5 and they drive off.
Oh my God.
And they don't take a plate or
of course not.
exchange any information.
No.
It's just like, oh, that doesn't look that bad. Here, let me just give you some.
Right, bye.
I mean, have you had one of those? I've at least had one of those where somebody like bumps into you and you're like, it's more trouble than it's worth.
One of my oldest friends, he had something like that. Like he bumped, like they just barely bumped. There was nothing, and it's like they were kind of in a spot where he felt like a cop might drive by, and he's looking at both of their cars. There's no damage. He just starts waving. I'm like, just go. That's right. This is dumb.
Absolutely.
You know?
So like, so this is exactly where they are now. Like I said, her grandson, I don't know what the driving age was back then, but her grandson was driving. And so I think that, like, one way or another, they were just like, nobody's really hurting here.
Exactly.
Everybody just go about your business.
Well, country folk do drive
Completely.
sooner than 16. That's for
Absolutely. Now, that was the 28th.
Okay.
The 30th, March 30th of 1955. Do you remember the junior sheriff's gang?
Yes.
And all the people with badges and patches?
Yeah.
Well, handful of these kids are just out joyriding.
Okay.
You know how you did.
Right,
like when you were a teenager, like, just get out of the house. Woo, we can drive. Just go drive around.
All the time.
We used to circle a Hardee's parking lot over and over, right? They're just out joyriding. And they see a car pulled over on a dirt road. And they joke to themselves, ha 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 ha, it must be the killer.
Oh no.
And as they pass the car, a guy starts walking out of the woods.
Oh God!
Up towards that car.
Oh.
And as they drive by, the man walking up to the car, one of them yells out of the window, "It's okay. We're investigators." But they also then notice that there is front and left damage to this car. They don't do anything about this except one boy in the car. My gosh. And I don't know which one it was, but I am certain that he is the one that did all of the note-taking for every group project. Like, you wanted him in your group. One kid writes down the license plate.
Yay!
Oh, gosh.
Right?
I know. One hero in this car writes down the license plate, and this is eventually... So it turns out teenagers do solve it.
Those meddling kids!
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well, let them have a pen. So one kid writes down the license plate and turns it in, and that leads to a match for the Indiana license plate for Leslie Irwin.
Oh my God!
We've got our man.
Yes.
We've got our man. Wow. Now, Leslie is employed as a steam pipe insulator.
Okay.
And this is the other thing, and I'm like, what? Things were different back then. He hasn't shown up for work at his job as a steam pipe insulator. He's still working there.
But he hasn't shown up.
Only on Mondays. He hasn't shown up for the past 7 Mondays in a row.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're fine. He shows up the rest of the week. They're like, what? Pipes still need insulating. Am I right, ladies? He hasn't shown up for the past 7 Mondays in a row.
Okay.
And the dates of these crimes all match up with Mondays.
Oh my God.
Who likes Mondays anyway? Tell me why.
It's just another manic Monday.
It's just... I literally do have Let Janet sing.
It's just another manic Monday. Oh. I wish it was Sunday, which it is.
It is when we're recording, because that's our fun day. Our don't have to run day. Anyway, the police arrest him at work. It takes 3 people. They tackle him. They bring him in.
Wow.
Indiana and Kentucky both want to try him.
Sure.
But the coin toss goes to Indiana because that's where he was arrested, and that's where the strongest cases that we can make.
Good.
Kerr, who was the gas station attendant, and Holland, who was the liquor store, the pregnant liquor store owner. They were both in Indiana. So anyway, Wesley Kerr's wallet is on Irwin when he's arrested.
Oh my God.
So that is also the strongest physical evidence that we have. Okay? This trial. This is when the story gets good.
Okay, tell me about this trial.
This trial. It could fully be its own episode. Circus doesn't even start to describe this. We're just going to hit the highlights.
Okay.
There's so much. These may be out of order. Sources vary. I'm going to name my sources at the end of the story. Anyway, Irvin confesses to all 6 murders. But only on a reel-to-reel audio tape. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah. No, I used to play with one when I was a kid.
Megan's dad had one down in the basement of their house. Hi, Dad Cronin. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Megan. Hi, Dad Cronin.
Anyway, the tape is muffled.
Oh.
So the judge won't allow it to be played in court because he's like, if I can't hear it in a quiet room, there's no way that the jurors are going to be able to hear it clearly in a room of 200. And if they can't hear it clearly, then it's not admissible. So there is also a transcript of the recordings, but Irvin won't sign it.
Oh.
And so it's like he has confessed to all of this, but it's all inadmissible.
Oh my God.
Meanwhile, all of the details are being spread in all of the papers, not just locally, but nationally. So all kinds of things that probably shouldn't have come out in the trial are coming out. These include details about his military offenses, whole time, like the 6 escapes, the AWOL, the 5 arsons when he was a juvenile. Like, there's so much stuff coming out.
Wow.
Also, Irvin has this attorney, defense attorney, Lop. He is the most extra defense attorney ever.
Okay.
Like, if I ever got caught doing something very, very bad, this is who you want in your corner. But also, this guy is over the line.
Okay.
He objects to everything.
Oh, wow.
Everything. And again, I can't get into all of it, but I'm going to give you just a few. He says the whole indictment, where, like, of all the transcripts, that needs to be tossed out because at the top of the indictment, there's a rule that says indictment should have one true bill. Written out at the top, and it's not written in cursive, it's been printed.
Oh my God.
So the entire indictment obviously needs to be thrown out. It takes 550 people and 4 weeks to select a jury of 12.
Wow.
And I should also mention that they're all 12 men.
Oh.
Even though half the victims were women, but okay, well.
Okay.
Well, we're right back where we started from, aren't we? The jury also, he was told the jury should leave the courtroom during certain witness testimony because the testimony might influence them.
Does he know how
testimony? He's talking to the permanently blinded Mamie. And the fact that now 3-year-old Elizabeth, the baby that was spared, is present in the courtroom. He doesn't think that that should be allowed because it might influence the jury.
Okay.
For the victims to be present.
Oh my God.
And for the adult victim to testify.
Wow.
He also, at the start of the trial, he asks for and is granted a change of location from one county to the other, because he's like, hey, too many people know.
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
That's like literally the only thing that makes sense. Right. But that makes sense.
Too many people know about this.
Sure.
Can we move it from this county, County A, to County B?
Okay.
They move it to County B. Once he gets to County B, he goes back and asks, like, hey, we don't think that there are going to be sufficient people that are, like, understanding of the case here in County B. Can we move it back to County A?
No!
And that's exactly what happens is the state of Indiana says no, because there is a statute in the state of Indiana at this point saying, look, you can have a change of location once.
Right, yeah. That
You're allowed for one, but if it's granted, you can't have a second.
You can't move it again, yeah.
And he's trying to move it right back to... Let's get right back to where we started from. The musical true crime podcast with Tracey and Janet. Anyway, also...
Yeah.
Irvin's girlfriend testifies.
Mm-hmm.
She's married.
Okay.
Not to Irvin. Fair enough.
Right.
She said she was asked in a letter to buy hacksaws, quote, the best that you can buy, and to deliver them to the jail.
Oh my God.
But she burned the letter. And so the defense is like, hey, that's...
Yeah.
We have to throw this out. There's no proof. Lop also objects to his own objections. He is just like, man, he's doing his job.
Yeah.
As a defense attorney, but
sure.
But holy moly. Anyway, Irvin is brought in, and he's so prone to escape, and there are so many factors. He's brought in handcuffs, but he also has a chain around him.
Okay.
Prompting the nickname in the papers, Mad Dog.
Oh my God.
So now he's no longer, the, what was it, the torso or the kneeling,
the
kneeling corpse murders.
Exactly.
He's not the kneeling corpse murders. Now he's Leslie Mad Dog
Okay.
Irvin. So he's Leslie Mad Dog Irvin. Lop, during his arguments, compares Irvin to Jesus. Yeah, he's killed a whole bunch of people in cold blood.
Yeah.
Save one 2-year-old. He calls the prosecution Pontius Pilate. And he's quoting Bible verses, and the prosecution is like, hey, can we please have some separation of court and state?
Yeah, exactly.
But doesn't happen, and he turns finally Lop, which, how the judge put up with this man.
I have no idea.
Wolf. He turns to the jury and says that you are the angry mob.
That'll get him on your side, won't it?
Well, they deliberate for about 90 minutes.
90!
Irvin is found guilty.
Weird.
He's given a death sentence.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
He's on death row for 5 years.
Okay.
Reporters ask if there's going to be a night guard because he's sent to a prison where they only have a guard during the day. And given the fact that he's busted out of military prison 6 times, they ask if there's going to be a night guard.
Yeah.
The sheriff says there's no need for that, and that this jail is escape-proof.
Uh-huh, sure.
Janet.
Tracy.
Would you like to take a guess at...
I'm just gonna guess he escaped.
I owe you $1. January 18th, 1956. The day guard shows up. He goes downstairs. He's lighting up the furnace for the day. And there's a back door open. But there's nothing to see here.
Nothing to see.
Also, I should note that the sheriff and his family live on campus at the prison.
Oh my God.
It's kind of an Andy Griffith situation where they've got like an apartment at the front of the house and then all the jails are in the back.
Yep.
Well, day guard shows up. Door is open. He lights the furnace, shrugs, goes upstairs to check the prisoners. And I know this sounds crazy.
Okay.
But we're down one. Somebody's missing. Erwin's not there.
That's so great. You know what? My mouth is open. I cannot believe that. That's shocking.
Oh, just absolutely jogging, right? Irvin made it out through 4 steel doors and then that one wooden door in the basement. He's in the wind, and at this point, because there is no night guard, he's had at least a 10-hour head start.
Oh my God.
The manhunt is on.
Oh, yeah.
3 weeks.
Okay. 3 weeks. Haven't
3
found
weeks.
him. Not yet.
Hitchhikers and stealing cars, walks, carjacking, etc. He is leaving from Indiana. He makes it all the way to California.
Wow.
Across states.
Yeah.
And there are a few little touch-ins where, like, in retrospect, in hindsight, which is 2020, which is where you hire the night guard. Anyway, he is all the way in California. He robs a house in Los Angeles, gets a bunch of jewelry.
Uh-huh.
He goes to pawn the jewelry in San Francisco after he hitchhikes, which even getting from LA to San Francisco is kind of a journey.
Yes,
right?
it is, very much.
So he gets all the way up to San Francisco, and the pawn shop owner doesn't know anything about Mad Dog, doesn't know anything, because these are fucking piddly little Midwest problems.
Right?
But he's like, I looked at the man and I looked at the jewelry and something about it just didn't add up.
Okay.
So he calls it in. People come and check it out.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, this is stolen goods. And he's arrested. Now, he's arrested. It turns out that what he did to get out of the prison in Indiana, this is amazing.
Okay.
He didn't steal keys. He made keys.
Oh my God.
So he had almost a photographic memory.
Oh.
And he looked at the people that were like unlocking his cell once a day to like let him out for the exercise or for food or what have you. And he could visually memorize what the keys looked like.
Wow.
Now, he was treated very well in prison. He was fed fried chicken, he was fed steak, like whatever it was.
Right.
He was allowed visitors, and he was allowed books. And so he got paperback books, and you know how the covers are kind of cardboard and they're a little bit thicker?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he also had a religious medal that he wore around his neck, just like my last, like Floyd Collins. And, anyway, he asked for a tube of glue to repair his broken religious medal, and they gave him one. And then they didn't go and take it back. So he cut keys out of cardboard.
Right.
And then glued cardboard over cardboard over cardboard.
Until he made a key.
Until he made a key. And then he would grease it up with soap. And at night when somebody was sleeping, he would use that to kind of take it and refine it how he needed to.
Wow.
To get through the first door.
Wow.
And then through the second door. And then through the, like at night. He was just one at a time, like figuring his way out until he was ready to make his escape.
Wow.
So he's caught in California. They're getting ready to fly him back for trial. And TWA, who is supposed to fly him, won't fly him.
Oh.
Because they're like, hell no, we're not letting this person on our plane.
Right.
So he has to get brought back via train.
Right.
Chained to a detective the entire time. It comes back, and they have to bring him back on trial again. It goes, his appeals finally go through. It goes all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States.
Wow.
And this changes a whole lot about what we still to this day
really
use about police work and the media.
Oh, okay.
Because so much had come out.
Yeah, so much had come out during the trial. Right.
So this changes a whole lot because of, number one, they say, inefficient police work. And a coerced confession.
Yeah.
And it's fine if jurors don't have to have no knowledge.
Right.
Of a prosecution. But they have to be not influenced.
Right, yes.
And be able to, like the OJ trial,
right?
Right.
Right.
Knock, knock. Who's there? OJ who? You're on the jury.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They have to, it's okay if they know about the case, but they can't have been previously influenced about the case. And so much has come out about his prior crimes.
Wow.
That they feel he didn't get a fair trial.
Wow.
The first time.
That is so crazy.
So they try him again. He is again found guilty. But this time, instead of death sentence, they have ruled in favor of life without parole.
Got it. Okay.
So he is committed to life in prison. And he goes back to Indiana State Prison. He does say at some point in time, he's like, I'm tired of running. I won't try to break out again.
Okay.
And he goes back into prison and he stays there for years. He starts really getting into leather work.
Okay.
And apparently, there was like a prison store where prisoners could make stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then people could come and buy it.
Oh my God.
And you could earn money for your commissary.
Right.
And like, he was so good at, like, he did really nice belts and purses and things. And
well, I mean,
he's got nothing but time.
Exactly.
Point, right? But he makes money and he becomes, like, really renowned for being really good at his leather work. And he also contracts lung cancer.
Okay.
And so in 1983, he dies in prison of lung cancer.
Wow.
After having escaped, like I said, at least a couple of times civilian prison and 6 times military prison.
Oh my God.
And he is a bad person.
Yes.
Who just, quote unquote, liked kids. So he left one 2-year-old alive. And he took a lot of lives, and he has a completely banana pants story. Yes. And that is the story of Leslie Mad Dog Irvin.
Thank you. That was crazy.
And I would like to real quick name my sources.
Absolutely.
As I mentioned at the top of the episode, I had an eye injury today, so I had to use a few audio sources because it was really hard for me to look at a screen. Everything is fine. I can see again. But the story, hat tip for the story goes to writer's dad, Larry Murphy.
Hi.
Love you. And then Mountain Murders podcast, One True Crime podcast were my audio sources. And then once I was able to see again, courierandpress.com and the ever-present wikipedia.com. Mm-hmm. I have not gotten pictures to Janet yet, but I will before this episode goes to air now that I can see again.
Yay! Well, thank you. That was an amazing story.
Yay! I'm glad you liked it. It's just, there's so much.
Yeah.
And especially that One True Crime podcast. If you want a little bit more information about the trial side of things, like if you're a lawyer or interested in the legality of things, they have way more detail. We just didn't have the time to get to it.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
I have a story.
Yes.
And you will know this person because, I mean, you have to live under a rock to not know them. But I didn't know really any of the specifics. So I was like, you know what? This story was given to me and Chuck.
Oh, yeah.
So, hi, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
So, he's like, you really should go over that. And I was like, okay. And so, what I did is I focused on, it goes over a lot of information, but we're going to focus on one specific thing that happened.
Sure.
I'm going to talk about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
I will cross it off of my list. Good. Now, well, we're going to be in Chicago in a couple of weeks, so this is a good time to talk about that.
So apparently, after I did the story, I was like, oh, okay, and let me do my what's nice. And I'm like, I did Chicago last week as well.
It's okay. Look, the Midwest is only so big.
It's only so big. Okay, so January 17th, 1899, Alphonse Gabriele Capone, that's how you say it in Italian, was born in Brooklyn, a borough of New York City.
Right.
His parents were Italian immigrants, Gabriele and Teresa Capone. We will start saying Capone here in a moment.
I know.
Gabriele was a barber and Teresa was a seamstress. They were both born in Angri, outside of Naples in Italy.
Okay.
They immigrated to the U.S. in 1893 and settled in Brooklyn. They had 9 children total.
Woof.
So they
Slackers.
Now,
are you even Italian if you only have 9 kids?
Exactly. It's Jamie Vincenzo.
Vincenzo?
Yeah. He ended up changing his name to Richard Hart because he ended up becoming. I know, right?
Jamie Vincenzo changes his name to Richard Hart.
He did this because he ended up becoming a prohibition agent in Nebraska.
Oh, he's a probie. All right. Okay.
Raphael James Bottles. He's one of the other children. I'm naming all the children's names. He took charge of Al's beverage industry.
His name is, hence Bottles.
Right, exactly.
That's the name.
Exactly. Salvador Frank, he was also a part of Al's criminal group.
Uh-huh.
And then we have Ermina. She died at the age of 1. We have Ermino, John Albert, and then Matthew and Mafalda. So those are all the kids. Now, 2 of these, obviously, other than just Al, 2 of the other boys, they ended up doing business with Al.
Fair.
One ended up passing away on April 1st. That was Frank. He died in 1924. And Bottles ended up getting imprisoned in 1932.
Well, he got bottled up.
So, story of Al. He was a promising student, but he had trouble with rules in a strict Catholic school.
Well...
He was expelled at the age of 14 for hitting a female teacher in the face.
How did we both end up?
I don't know. I don't know. So he ends up, he basically just gets kicked out of school.
Sure.
He never returns. So he doesn't graduate.
This will go well.
Al ends up doing some odd jobs. He works at a candy store. He works at a bowling alley. Between 1916 and 1918, he actually played semi-professional baseball.
Right. No, I've heard that. Yeah. That he was like, man, just flip a coin and things could have gone an entirely different way.
Absolutely. Now, during this time, he was also being influenced by Johnny Torrio. It's Torrio.
Torrio, yeah.
Who was a gangster, and he regarded him as a mentor. So
didn't he also play baseball? Torrio, I thought he might. I could be way off base.
I didn't see anything. Al ends up marrying May Josephine Coughlin at the age of 19 on December 30th, 1918. She ended up, basically they got married because a month earlier they gave birth to a son, and she was an Irish Catholic. So they were getting married. They ended up staying married the entire time.
Oh.
Like, he had one wife. That doesn't mean he didn't do other things, but he had one wife.
Love wins.
His parents had to consent to the marriage because Al was only 19 when he married her.
Yipes. Okay.
Yeah. So they stayed married until his death. It doesn't say. It looks like... No, she was also 19. So they're both 19 years old.
Just two sparrows in a hurricane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Al started to get involved in small-time gangs in New York City. He was a part of the Junior 40 Thieves and also the Bowery Boys.
The Junior 40 Thieves?
I know!
Was there like an adult 40 Thieves?
He joined the Brooklyn Rippers and then the 5 Points gang in Lower Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me. He was employed by a fellow racketeer, Frankie Yale, who was a bartender
of the Academy.
He was a bartender in a Coney Island dance hall and saloon called the Harvard Inn.
Of the Academy.
So Al ended up working as a door guard there.
Good. Guess what, Mom? I'm going to Harvard.
Right?
Academy. Tavern. My boy's at Harvard. He's there 6 nights a week.
So Al's working the front door, and he ends up, they say he didn't mean to insult a woman. I highly do not believe that. But he insulted somebody, and the brother of this woman was really mad when he did that. So he ended up slashing Al in the face 3 times on the left side. And this is where Al ends up getting his nickname, Scarface. He hated that name.
No!
He did not.
Snorky?
No, I don't.
Can I tell you? Okay. So the one thing I know about Al Capone, he hated the nickname Scarface, and I do know...
Snorky! No, it's right here.
Okay, good. All right, I'll leave it. We'll save it. Stay tuned, listeners.
all of his close friends called him Snorky, which is it's a term for sharp dresser.
Oh, okay, but yeah, he wanted to be called Snorky.
I know!
Like, don't call me Scarface.
Call me Snorky!
Snorky. For a tough guy, that sounds so funny from today's standards,
I know,
right?
but apparently that meant sharp dresser.
Scarface makes you sound like a badass.
I
Like,
know!
look who you're going out with on next Friday night, Marsha. Oh, I'm going out with Snorky.
So that the mentor that he had been following, Johnny Torrio, Torrio ends up getting imported by James Big Jim Colosimo as an enforcer in Chicago. So Al goes right along with him. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll go. Yeah. So Al, he ends up being a bouncer in a brothel where most likely he picked up syphilis.
For the first time. I mean, he's got plenty of chances. Don't worry, y'all.
But he never sought treatment. Apparently, there was a way to cure it back then in 1919. It's called Salvarsan. That's what you would have taken, but he just never did anything about it.
There's also, didn't they tried to do it with like injecting like mercury into the
Yeah.
penis?
Yeah,
Like, there's
I know.
just, whew,
but
STD.
they had a way to fix it, but he just dn't do it.
Didn't do it.
1923 ends up buying a house in the south side of Chicago for $5,500. The newspapers, they start promoting him as a boxing promoter. So right now we got Al and we got Torrio. They're kind of doing things, right?
Right.
I mean, they're working for Big Jim.
And one of them's trying to be Don King.
Right. So on May 7th, 1923, Joe Howard is killed after trying to interfere with Al's, basically the bootlegging business. So Al and Torrio, they're running a bootlegging business, and so they end up killing somebody because they're trying to mess with their own business, right? And then Torrio ends up taking over Big Jim's criminal empire because Big Jim was murdered on May 11th, 1920, and it's possible that Al might have had something to do with that.
Meanwhile, though, there is a power vacuum, and somebody is going to have to step up.
Yep. So they end up taking. So Torrio, he's heading the Italian organized crime group right now in Chicago, and Al is his right hand man. Torrio, he was not down with trying to fight other gangs. He really wanted to negotiate. He was like, that's your territory. This is our territory.
Let's make some peace. There's enough for all of us to wet our beaks. Let's just figure it out.
Yeah. So he didn't want to be involved in gang wars. It was just not a thing. And
there's enough to go around.
Right, because Prohibition is making them a ton of money.
Completely. Right now, there's enough to go around. There's no reason.
And Al is working with the Canadian bootleggers because, just bring the...
So easy to, right over the river. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
Exactly. So... on the North Side gang is led, we're going to go to the North Side now. The North Side gang is led by Dean O'Banion.
Right, the Irish have the North, the Italians have the South.
Exactly. So Torrio, he comes under pressure from these two guys called the Gina brothers, and who are allied with him. They're like, and Dean from the North Side is not dealing with the Gina brothers very well. He's just like, we're not settling our disputes, blah, blah, blah. And so Torrio has now decided, okay, well, I guess we got to get rid of the North Side gang leader. Oh. And so he arranges to get him murdered at his own flower shop. Yeah, so basically Dean ends up dying at his own flower shop, which is basically that is their hub for the North Side.
I have seen this. I have actually seen this flower shop.
Oh, wow.
I went a few years ago. I was going, more than a few years ago, like 20 odd years ago. I went up to go and meet a boyfriend who was up in Chicago.
Right.
And I had a whole day to spend by myself before I could meet up. So I took this tour that was like a bus tour, and they took you from the north side to the south side to the north side to the south side, and talked about all of the different mob places, and they stopped outside of the flower shop.
Yeah, so he ends up dying November 10th, 1924. Jaime Weiss is now the head of the North Side Gang, and he is being backed by Vincent Drucci and Bugs Moran.
Oh, Bugsy!
Yep. And they wanted their revenge. They're
Completely, absolutely.
What the heck?
Look, you gotta. I mean, if you're trying to control territory, if somebody hits on you like that, you gotta, gotta strike back.
So they start trying to do things. January 20 in 1925, Al ends up getting ambushed, but he's not hurt. 12 days later, Torrio is shot, but he recovers. But Torrio's like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with the mob business. I'm resigning. It's all you. I mean, they almost killed me. I'm done. So he ends up basically resigning and handing all the control over of the South Side to Al. And Al Capone is only 26, and he's a new boss.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I kind of knew the bones of this story, but I had no idea he was so young.
He's 26 years old.
Holy shit, I couldn't be in charge of... I didn't know how to, make my own dentist appointment when I was 26. My goodness.
So, anyway, he takes over... They take over basically... They took in illegal breweries and a transportation network that reached to Canada, and he had political and law enforcement protection. So, Chicago is just at this point, it's just backwards. Everybody's getting paid.
Look, better the devil you know.
Right? Exactly, right. So he ends up using violence to increase his revenue. If an establishment refuses to buy liquor from him during Prohibition, the businesses would get blown up. And it basically up to 100 people got killed in these bombings.
Oh my gosh.
Because he's like, oh, you're selling illegal liquor, you need to buy it from me. Oh, you're not? Oh, okay.
Boom.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
He ended up hiring a lot of black members in the community who had worked for him. He really loved jazz music. He indulged a lot. He had custom suits, expensive cigars, gourmet food, gourmet drink, and of course, female companionship.
No, he liked the nice things.
Yes, he did. He also had very expensive jewelry. When the media would ask him, they're like, what are your activities? He would say, I'm just a businessman giving the people what they want.
Well,
and he basically became a national celebrity.
And the best lie is one that is rooted in the truth, right?
Exactly. He ends up basing himself in Cicero, Illinois, and he used bribery and intimidation to take over town council elections. Okay. So the North Side could not target him.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Because now he's a politician, he's involved in the local community, and it's a little bit, it's not just some gangster getting shot dead.
Right.
This is the pillar of a community that's been targeted by those nasty, nasty Irishmen.
Exactly. So messed up.
Very clever. That's a smart
I know.
Right?
He was really smart. So... here's where it starts.
Nothing can protect you like the public eye.
Exactly. Al's driver was tortured and murdered.
Oh, no.
An attempt was made on Weiss's life in the Chicago Loop. September 20th, 1926, the Northsiders, and oh my God, okay, so I ended up watching I watched, I think it's from 1966, it's a movie about the murder, and I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, now I need to read about this. September 20th, 1926, the Northsiders drive several cars in front of Al Capone's headquarters, which is at the Hawthorne Inn. And they just open fire. Machine guns and shotguns. They basically obliterate all the windows on the first floor of this building, which is a restaurant.
Right.
Everybody's on the ground.
So even if nobody is hurt, it's a message.
Yes, and there's just car, and they're just shooting and shooting and shooting. Al was unhurt and tried to negotiate with them, like, okay, and it just fell through. 3 weeks later, Weiss ends up getting killed outside of the Northsiders' headquarters.
Right.
Because probably he was trying to go up there to go, can we have a truce? Can we do something? Mm-hmm. The owner of the Hawthorne's restaurant and friend of Al's was kidnapped and killed by Vincent Drucci and Bugs Moran in January of 1927. So again, I'm watching this movie, and every time they turn around and another thing happens, he's looking at the people going, we have to do something. And they're like, it's going to make it worse, right?
Right.
But he's like, they're trying to kill me, So he started to become really paranoid, and his entourage, they're basically what he would do. When he would get really paranoid, they would go to the train station at night. Mm-hmm. He'd buy out an entire Pullman sleeper, and then they would all take they'd all take a trip to a luxury hotel in Cleveland or Omaha or Kansas City or Little Rock or Hot Springs and stay there for a whole week. That way they were all out of the way of the Northsiders.
You can kind of cool things down for a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So they did that several times. 1928, he ends up deciding, okay, maybe I need a summer home to kind of get away from all this. So for $40,000 in 1928, he buys a house at 93 Palm Avenue on Palm Island, Florida, from Clarence Bush of the Anheuser-Busch family.
Oh, no way! I do remember a little bit of this from watching Boardwalk Empire.
So
there is a whole thing where they end up down in Florida.
Yeah, he buys a house there from the Bush family.
Right, and well, if you're in the, and maybe I'm getting ahead, sorry, if I am, but if you're down in Florida, doesn't that help you with getting booze from Cuba?
Oh, probably. They don't even go into that.
Okay.
But it wouldn't surprise me. But
right,
this is keeping him away. We have a summer home in Florida. Mm-hmm. Weiss and Drucci were killed after the original leader of the North. Well, they end up dying long after Dean, that first leader, had died. Bugs Moran is now the head of the North Side Gang.
Oh,
so now it's Bugs.
Bugsy Moran.
Yep. Capone was at his home in Florida during this time.
Oh.
We're getting into the massacre. They want to basically get rid of Bugs.
Sure.
Because now he has all the reasons in the world to kill Al. Because they've killed his, number two. So they attempt to eliminate Bugs over some expensive whiskey that was hijacked while being transported to Cook County. So now that's the tipping point. It's okay, you messed with my people, now you're messing with my money.
All right.
Right?
Now you gotta go.
So February 14th, 1929.
What could possibly go wrong?
I have no idea. Al's men, Al's men rent an apartment across the street from a warehouse that served as Bugs Moran's headquarters.
Okay.
And these men, they're sitting up there, they're waiting, and they're going to wait till there's a delivery. And so they're waiting for the delivery, and then they signal these 4 gunmen disguised as police officers to go inside the warehouse. And so when the North Side gang sees them, they're like, oh, we're getting busted.
It looks like a raid.
It just looks like a raid. Nothing's going to happen.
Blah, blah, blah. Raid, raid, raid.
Right. So they line them up facing the wall. There's 7 of them. Bugs is walking by when he kind of sees this, and he just keeps going on. He doesn't go into the warehouse.
Smart.
He's I don't know what's going on, but I don't need to be there. And the armed gunmen, they had machine guns and shotguns. They just shoot them all. So
almost execution style.
Very
right?
much.
Yeah.
They they think, oh, we're getting raided.
Boom.
Yep. They kill all 7 of them. And this alone, They end up putting out photos of this, and I mean, there's many photos of it.
Oof, I've seen.
And this just damages Al's reputation. The public sees it, and they're like, this isn't good anymore. You know, you were doing okay, and now you're just straight up killing people.
Right.
So he was summoned to testify like days later because they're like, okay, well, we can't catch him on actually killing them because he's in Florida at the time. Hey, I know, we'll bring him in for prohibition stuff because it's prohibition. And Al's like, well, I can't come in. I'm sick. So,
yeah, sure.
so he ends up not going there. He decides the way to clean up his image. He ends up donating money to charities. He sponsors a soup kitchen during the Depression. So he's trying to do things so the public likes him again. And since Al had ties with the Chicago mayor, he already, because the public is still outraged, they end up, the next election that happened in 1931, they vote that guy out.
Wow.
They're just like, nope, you're a part of Al.
Yeah.
Walter Strong, publisher of the Chicago Daily News, asked his friend, President Herbert Hoover, who was just about to take office.
Great president. Totally handled everything perfectly.
For federal investigation over Chicago's lawlessness.
Oh, well.
So the Treasury and Justice Departments developed plans for income tax prosecutions against the gangsters.
That's how you got the mobsters, right?
That's all you could
do. You can't get them on anything else, but they never were careful with their money.
No.
If one of those guys had paid their taxes...
I know! You would have been fine, baby. So March 27th, 1929, Al Capone is arrested by FBI agents as he leaves the Chicago courtroom after prohibition laws for faking an illness. Because that first one they called him and they're like, can't come in. May 16th, 1929, he's arrested again in Philadelphia for carrying a concealed weapon. May 17th, 1929, he's in trial in Philadelphia, pleaded guilty, and was sentenced to 1 year prison term.
Only one.
Only one. August 8th, 1929, they end up transferring him to the Philadelphia's Eastern State Penitentiary, where he had you've seen pictures of that room.
Woof, that's one of the, that is supposed to be one of the worst prisons in the country.
But he had a really nice room.
But he had a really good space.
Yes, he was released in March of 1930, and listed as the #1 public enemy on the unofficial Chicago Crime Commission's list. Mm-hmm. February of 1930, his organization was linked to the murder of Julius Rosenheim, who was a police informant in Chicago for 20 years.
Okay.
Most of these charges, other than the 1 year thing, were pretty much dropped. They dropped, discharged.
Well, they have him. He's in custody.
Yeah, but they only got him for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, he was charged with 5 counts of income tax evasion of $250,000 on October 17th, 1931, and then he was sentenced to 11 years in a federal prison.
Right.
He was fined $50,000 plus the $7,692 in court costs, plus another $250,000 of interest on the taxes. So it's a lot of money, right?
Uncle Sam wants his cut.
Exactly. So they end up sending him to the Atlanta U.S. Penitentiary on May of 1932. He's at the age of 33. So he was 26. Now he's in prison for real.
Oh, wow.
Upon arrival, they end up, when you go into prison, they run all those tests on you to see what you have and don't have. And he's diagnosed with syphilis. And gonorrhea.
Don't tell him he doesn't know how to have a good time.
He also, once he went into this prison, he started to get really bad withdrawal symptoms because he was suffering from basically withdrawal from cocaine addiction.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that he was a cocaine. I mean, that tracks.
Yes, it totally tracks.
But I had no idea. Everything you hear about him, you don't hear about cocaine.
Right. He ends up getting moved to Alcatraz. I did not know that.
I did know that part. Yeah.
In August of 1934, While he was at Alcatraz, he was stabbed by James Lucas, who was another inmate, June 23rd, 1936. I mean, he survives it, but he does get stabbed. Due to good behavior at Alcatraz, he's allowed to play the banjo in the prison band.
I heard about him getting stabbed by somebody that basically wanted to be known for the person that stabbed Al Capone.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
But I did not know about the banjo. Have you heard? I don't remember. It might have been Mark Twain. I don't remember who the writer was, but somebody said once that a gentleman is a person that can play the banjo but doesn't.
That's funny. So his last year in Alcatraz, he ends up hanging out more in the hospital section due to his illness and his eroding mental faculties due to the syphilis.
He's kind of, his brain is melting.
It's melting. He ends up getting paroled November 16th, 1939, after his wife appealed to the court based on his reduced mental capacity.
His wife is still advocating.
Yeah.
Talk about a ride or die.
I know.
Like, Mrs. Capone, I just want to take you out for like Cosmos and tell you can do better, girl.
I know. The Union Memorial Hospital ends up treating him for it's for the syphilis.
For the syphilitic, brain deterioration. Yeah.
March 20th, 1940, he ends up going back home to his house in Palm Island in Florida. 1942, this caught me off guard. 1942, he was one of the first American patients to receive the new drug penicillin.
Whoa! I had no idea. Whoa.
One of the first.
Oh, yeah, well...
Yeah, I know. I mean, I knew it came back up.
Screw those dying children.
Let's give the mobsters
They can wait. Snorky isn't feeling well. Snorky's got the sip. Sorry, little Timmy.
We gotta give this guy penicillin. So it does not reverse the brain damage, but
you don't say.
But it did slow down the disease. In 1946, a psychiatrist examined him and said at that point he had the mental capacity of a 12-year-old.
I know. Well,
he spent his last years in the mansion in Florida, spending time with his wife and grandchildren.
Okay.
January 21st, 1947, he had a stroke. He started to improve, but he ended up contracting broncho pneumonia and had a heart attack the next day on January 22nd. Okay. He ended up dying on January 25th of heart failure, surrounded by family and friends in his home. A week later, the funeral was held up in Chicago. He was originally buried in Mount Olivet Cemetery, but in 1950, he was moved to Mount Carmel Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois, along with his father and his brother Frank.
Was there a reason, or just
I think his dad probably passed at that point.
It's so weird to me when they take somebody's remains, and
I don't understand that. I've never understood that.
Unless there's like a grave robbery situation kind of thing. It's always strange to me when that happens.
Yeah.
But,
so yeah, that's the story.
That's a wild, wild story.
I did. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And a big one.
Yeah, a very big one.
And I'm glad that we are have gotten muddy with this.
Exactly. So I think this is where we should take a break.
I'm gonna go feed Janet a cup of bootleg liquor, and then maybe move her body, and then we'll be back with what's nice.
We'll be back with what's nice. If you enjoy getting muddy with us, here are some ways to help support our podcast. Send your requests to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to the podcast on the platform where you listen, and of course, a good review will help us reach new listeners. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment in the comments section. Join our Facebook group when we can discuss the episodes and hear your suggestions. And of course, tell your friends. And now let's go back to What's Nice.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
We are back for What's Nice.
Yes, we are.
And mine is short and sweet today. And that is, I have gone to Evansville, Indiana, which is kind of a small town. There is a fair amount to do there, but not a ton. But what there is, all right, I will preface this by saying that I am not necessarily like a huge Roseanne fan. I never watched that show. But if you were, and I know a lot of people are, Roseanne's house.
Oh my God.
The exterior of the house,
I see it. No, that's totally it.
Is in Evansville, Indiana. It's used in just a few seconds. It's just the exterior of the house. The interior was a Hollywood set. But you can go and see the outside, kind of like when people go to Arizona and they go to see the Breaking Bad house.
Right.
So that is there in Evansville, Indiana. And you can still, it looks pretty much the same as it always did.
It does, very much.
So if you're looking for a place for a quick little photo op, you can go and do that. And apparently the Lobo Lounge, which is, I guess, the bar, like what the Peach Pit was to 90210, the Lobo Lounge is to Roseanne. And it is also in Evansville.
Oh, wow.
As are the church and the street sign that they use in the show. So that is something kind of fun to go and see.
That's cool.
And Evansville is also very close to New Harmony, where you and I are going to be for the eclipse.
Yep, for the eclipse.
So
that's awesome.
Plenty of things for New Harmony, but I'm going to save those because I might need to use them for a future What's News.
Exactly.
But if you're a fan of Roseanne,
you can go see that.
You can go and see the outside of the house. A good place for you to pull up and take a curbside picture.
Nice. Awesome.
And that's very short and sweet, but that's what's nice.
Okay, I like it. So mine is kind of short and sweet too. Our stories they were kind of long today, so I think it's probably good that our
short and sweet. What's nice is good.
Yes.
Plus, I've got enchiladas to make, and we're getting ready to have dinner, so we're hungry.
So I realized, as I said earlier, that my story was taking place in Chicago, and I'm like, oh, I just did Chicago last week. Oh, well. Okay. So what I did is I pulled up the map where the actual massacre happened.
Oh, right.
And I was like, okay, what is really close to there?
Boom.
Lincoln Park is close to there.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, we already know about the zoo and all that. Did you know that there is basically it's a conservatory? It's like a mini botanical gardens.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
So yes, so they have a parks art, and they have architecture there. There is a nonprofit there that helps try to make things prettier. So like here's a picture here of the lily pad pond.
That's
and
gorgeous.
Then there's yes, they have gnomes. They like their gnomes a lot.
Oh, no. Get to know the artist behind Sweet Gnome. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet.
And it just looks like a kind of a neat place to go.
I do like a garden gnome.
Right, absolutely. They're going to have a flower show that actually started a Sweet Gnome Chicago flower show from
Sweet Gnome Chicago. Oh, come on. Give me a break.
It started on Valentine's Day,
Chicago.
and it goes through May 12th. They have holiday events, and it just, there's a nice little building there too, but it just looks like a really nice place. They have a lily, you can go and see the flowers, but they do have a pool there. And it just seems like kind of a new place.
Chicago Muddy Buddies, please weigh in and tell us about this place.
Right? So I wouldn't mind going to check it out. But it's just right there. And I figured, well, I'll pick something that was really close to what happened.
Absolutely.
There's a nice place that's close to the place that something horrible happened in.
Janet and I will be in Chicago in just a couple of weeks.
Just a couple of weeks, yeah.
And just for a very brief time. Also, thank you, Cecil and Blue, for making sure that you get on the mic.
They felt needed.
Well, the kittens are the only ones that are quiet, but right. I'm sure they'll be making their presence known soon. But no, that's lovely. And I would also say that if you are not a member of the Missouri Botanical Garden, consider membership.
Yes.
And if you are a member of the Missouri Botanical Garden, you can pretty much get into almost any freaking garden in the country or in the world with your membership card.
Nice.
There.
Awesome.
So that might get you into the Botanic Garden in Chicago.
Right.
Right.
So that's what I have. Nice. Yep, that's what's nice.
All right.
Well, I think we had good stories today. And
we do. Thank you for spending time with us. As always, we really appreciate you getting muddy with us. We are starting to grow in listenership, and we really appreciate your help in that.
Absolutely.
Please do, like I said, every week, tell a friend, tell a couple of friends. And I know it seems like a small thing, but if you have 5 minutes, just wherever you're listening, on Spotify or on YouTube or whatnot, go in and at least, give us 5 stars. If you don't have to, you don't have to write a whole damn term paper about what's nice. Just say that, hey, we really like them.
Exactly.
These pictures are funny. They make us laugh. And, just leave a few words and give us a good review and tell your friends, and that will help us grow our audience.
Absolutely.
And we're going to sign off, and as we always like to say,
stay Midwest nice.
Stay Midwest nice.